Let me be clear about something right now. The Indiana Fever were already carrying enough weight heading into this offseason. Roster questions, expectations tied to a superstar, national scrutiny at every turn. But this situation involving Sophie Cunningham, this is a different kind of problem. This isn't a basketball problem. This is an organizational problem. And when those surface publicly, they don't stay contained for long. Sophie Cunningham went on her podcast and said what she needed to say. No filters, no publicist-approved language, no carefully drafted statement released through a team communications office. She sat down, she opened her mouth, and she told the world exactly why she had to go find additional work outside of basketball. And let that land for a moment. A professional athlete, competing at the highest level of her sport, had to go secure outside employment because her employer did not pay her adequately. That is the headline.
No, it's fine because it's tough because I came off an injury and I haven't been in front of any teams. Like I had a lot going on this off season. And I was fully cleared. They had all the doctors, they had the numbers and everything. But if you don't get in front of these people, then it's like, hey, are you actually good? And so
what?
I'm not even gonna lie to you, that was a little kind of frustrating because I kind of shoot it straight where if I wasn't feeling good or I was hesitant, I think I would have said something and been honest because I'm just in the point in my career where I just want to win. I just want to win.
Dope.
And so
Dope.
I'm not going to put my ego and everything in front of things. And I know it is a business, but I think I'm just wired a little differently. I don't know. I just want to win. And so it was a little weird, but you know what? I think this is a great wake-up call to not get comfortable. I think it kind of lit a fire under my ass even more. At the end of the day, I'm coming back from a major, it was MCL.
Totally.
You know what I mean? And so
totally.
I feel good. I'm shooting the ball well. I'm mentally in a great spot. The Fever signed, we kind of have a new roster. And so we have Monique Billings, she is a very strong, physical, athletic four, rim runner, can grab every freaking offensive board, can dunk. So we'll take that.
Let's go.
Yeah, we signed Maisha Hines Allen, also a very physical, great player, more of a post player, 4-5. And then honestly, we got some kind of good rookies. It's exciting. I know a big name was Raven Johnson. She was with South Carolina. And sometimes for me, I'm just not really good at knowing if people's game are if it's going to translate well in the W,
Yeah, more. I think that's fascinating for all sports. Some people are better in college. Some people are better professionally. And you just don't know when. And I don't know if it's when you peak athletically or as much as it is just being in different systems and
opportunity.
I just sometimes it works better in college and sometimes it works better professionally for people. It's it's a very fascinating
kind of transition
layer to sports.
Yes. And some people you get the green light right away and you just get to go and do your thing. I mean, Diana Taurasi, and so it took me 3 or 4 years. You know what I mean? And so sometimes it tests your character, your perseverance, it tests everything. Sport tests everything. But Raven Johnson is a freaking dog. We had our first day of training camp, and I just love her. I think she's going to be fantastic. Great defensive.
Wow.
Player. Just a really sweet girl and a great teammate so far. So I'm a big fan. Big fan. Sometimes it tests your character, your perseverance, it tests everything. Sport tests everything. But Raven Johnson is a freaking dog. We had our first day of training camp, and I just love her. I think she's going to be fantastic. Great defensive player. Just a really sweet girl and a great teammate so far. So I'm a big fan. Big fan.
When a rookie comes in, do you like when a rookie is outspoken and a vocal leader, or do you kind of want that to be earned?
I just want people to be themselves. So I think when you come into a new team, especially the jump from high school to college is completely different. College to pros is also completely different. And so as a rookie, depending on kind of who you are and what you bring to the table, it's best to be a sponge. But if you're vocal, still be vocal, but also I think it's best also to stay in your lane, do what you do best. And if that's defense and freaking assists, then go all in on that. You know what I mean? Like, don't be anything that you're not. And it's nerve-wracking as a rookie. Training camp is nerve-wracking. Our rookies have done really well. And so I think we have kind of like a unique group, but today was like actually very surprising. Like it's going to be good.
Like in a positive way.
Yeah. Like, it's just like,
fuck yeah.
Yeah. Like I want to guess putting the people we put together, like we're going to be fast. We're going to be able to shoot the ball. Like we're going to be able to defend. Like it's going to be good.
How's our girl Caitlin look?
Good. You know, she already played in like the USA stuff and whatnot.
Right.
So she's like,
that's true.
Yeah, she's been healthy and everyone's healthy right now. So, woo, first day. We made it through the first day.
Congrats.
Film last night.
But how's your body feel? I know you said you feel healthy, but like, how do you feel now?
I do. I think there's a difference between like training and playing pickup and doing all that stuff. But then when you actually have to like go play and it has to be like intentional movements, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, I'm 29 and truly, I really do feel better than I ever have. So.
That is the story, and no amount of front office silence is going to make it disappear. Now, for those who have been following this situation closely, this was not entirely surprising. There had been signals pointing in this direction for months. Cunningham had been building out her professional portfolio beyond the court in ways that raised eyebrows. Her involvement with the USA Network, her features with Sports Illustrated, her media appearances, her podcast platform itself. On the surface, those look like smart brand building moves from a savvy professional athlete, and they are. But Cunningham made clear that these weren't simply optional opportunities she was pursuing out of ambition, they were financial necessities. The Indiana Fever front office gave her a contract offer that didn't reflect her value, and she had to make up the difference somewhere else. That is the raw, uncomfortable truth at the center of this story. She described the negotiation in terms that should alarm every fan of this franchise. The offer came across as firm and final. Take it or leave it. Those are the exact words being used to describe how the Fever approached this conversation. Take it or leave it. To a player who went to war for that team when the lights were brightest and the stakes were highest, take it or leave it. To someone who kept this franchise relevant during one of its most vulnerable stretches of the season, that language isn't just disrespectful. It's a statement of priorities, and the Fever revealed theirs clearly. Let's talk about what Sophie Cunningham actually did for this team, because it needs to be stated plainly and without hesitation. When Caitlin Clark went down with injury, the Indiana Fever faced a crisis of attention. The entire league's renewed momentum had been built around Clark's presence. The sold-out arenas, the television ratings, the social media explosions. All of it was centered on number 22. So when she went out, the legitimate question became, who steps up? Who holds the line? Who makes sure this team doesn't collapse into irrelevance while the star is sidelined? Sophie Cunningham stepped up. She brought the kind of energy that is impossible to manufacture and difficult to replace. She became the emotional engine of that roster. She took on the role of enforcer without being asked, defending teammates, standing in the face of physical confrontations, and making sure opponents understood that this team had teeth even without its biggest star. She kept fans engaged. She kept conversations alive. She gave the national media something to talk about beyond Clark's absence. That is real, quantifiable value. And the front office responded with a lowball offer and a take-it-or-leave-it posture. Now here is where the comparison to Kelsey Mitchell becomes absolutely critical and cannot be glossed over. Kelsey Mitchell received a Supermax contract. Let that be understood. A Supermax deal. And yes, Mitchell is an excellent player. Nobody is disputing her talent or her contributions to this franchise. But let's also be honest about the full picture. Mitchell dealt with injury last season. as well. She was carried off the court. She missed significant time, and the organization rewarded her with maximum financial commitment. They looked at her situation, they assessed her value, and they said, "We believe in you at the highest level our structure allows." They did not extend that same energy to Sophie Cunningham. The same organization that could find supermax conviction for one player told another player to take a lowball offer or walk. And when fans see that contrast laid out side by side, they are going to ask questions, hard questions, fair questions. Questions the Fever front office better have credible answers for, because right now the only narrative filling that vacuum is Cunningham's own words on her podcast. And her words are landing, but wait, because the contract wasn't even the only issue Cunningham surfaced. There was something else that came out of that podcast conversation that is arguably more troubling than the financial dispute. Cunningham described the way team officials handled her medical situation during her recovery. She indicated that they questioned her clearance, that they pressed her with questions like, "Are you sure? Are you good to go?" in ways that felt less like genuine medical concern and more like something else entirely. She described it in a way that made it sound like they were almost hoping she would decide she wasn't ready. Almost like they were nudging her toward an exit rather than supporting her return. Now, read that back slowly. A professional franchise allegedly questioning their own players' medical readiness in ways that felt antagonistic rather than supportive. That is a serious allegation. That is not a minor footnote in a contract negotiation story. That is a fundamental breakdown in the relationship between an organization and one of its players. If a team's medical and front office behavior makes a player feel like they're being pushed out rather than helped back in, something has gone deeply wrong in that building. And there is more context that sharpens this picture. Rumors circulated throughout last season that the Indiana Fever front office was not entirely comfortable with Cunningham's style of play, specifically her physical edge on the court. The shove involving J.C. Sheldon drew attention and criticism in some circles. Her willingness to engage physically, to act as an enforcer, to step into confrontations and make her presence felt. There were whispers relayed through commentary that team management viewed those moments as bad press rather than competitive fire, that they were uncomfortable with the image it projected for the franchise. Now let's sit with that for a second, because if this organization genuinely looked at Sophie Cunningham's intensity and her willingness to protect teammates and labeled it a liability, that tells you everything you need to know about the internal culture they are trying to build. Sophie Cunningham did not create problems for this team. She solved them. She provided an identity during a difficult stretch. She gave the roster a physicality and an emotional presence that elevated the people around her. If management saw that as bad press, then management fundamentally misread what they had in front of them. And now they are paying for that misread publicly. The timing of her podcast appearance has also generated its own layer of discussion. There is speculation among those reacting to her episode about when exactly it was filmed. Some believe it was recorded around the time of a recent practice where something notable occurred on camera, and that has led certain voices to question whether part of her messaging serves as damage control for those events. It is worth noting that this is interpretation and speculation from outside observers, not a conclusion Cunningham drew herself. But in the current environment where every public statement gets analyzed from every possible angle, that kind of speculation is inevitable, and it adds yet another dimension to an already complex story. Now let's zoom out for a moment and look at the broader implications of what is happening here, because this is not just a Sophie Cunningham contract dispute. This is a signal about how the Indiana Fever operate when the cameras aren't pointed directly at them. And in a league experiencing unprecedented growth, those signals matter enormously. Other players are watching, agents are watching, future free agents considering where they want to play are absolutely watching. When a player has to go find another job to make ends meet because her team lowballed her and then goes public about it on her own platform, the franchise takes a reputational hit that goes beyond the immediate news cycle. The WNBA is at a pivotal moment. Revenue is growing, visibility is growing, interest from fans who had never watched a single game before is growing. Teams that handle their players well during this period, that demonstrate organizational integrity and genuine appreciation for contribution, those teams will attract talent. Teams that expose themselves as cold, transactional, and dismissive of player value will struggle in ways they haven't yet fully anticipated. The Indiana Fever should be thinking about that right now. And there is yet another thread that Cunningham's podcast pulled on regarding the team's roster dynamics going forward. There was discussion during her episode about defensive assignments and player transitions, with particular attention paid to Raven Johnson. Cunningham's comments led some listeners to wonder whether certain defensive reputations built in college translate cleanly to the professional level. She raised questions about whether a player known for locking people down in the college game can bring that same impact to a roster built around perimeter shooting and spacing. These aren't personal attacks. They are basketball observations. But in the current climate surrounding this team, every basketball observation carries additional weight and generates its own wave of reaction. Could Raven Johnson be feeling the pressure to expand her offensive game in ways that might not yet be natural to her? Is there an adjustment period happening that the coaching staff is navigating? These are fair questions that fans and analysts are now asking in the wake of Cunningham's podcast comments. And while none of this rises to the level of confirmed drama, it does suggest that the Fever are dealing with more moving parts internally than the polished public image suggests. Now, here is the part that needs to be said without hesitation or softening. The Indiana Fever front office knew what they were doing when they put that offer in front of Sophie Cunningham. They knew her financial situation. They knew what she had done for the team. They knew the context of Kelsey Mitchell's Supermax deal sitting right there for comparison. They made a calculated decision to lowball her, to tell her take it or leave it, and to hope she either accepted it quietly or moved on without making noise. They miscalculated badly on that last part. Because Sophie Cunningham has a platform. She has a podcast. She has fans who were drawn to this franchise specifically because of her. She has a media relationship with outlets large enough to amplify whatever she says. And she used all of that not to burn the team down or launch personal attacks, but to simply tell the truth about her experience. That restraint, honestly, is more damaging to the front office than any explosive confrontation would have been, because it reads as credible, it reads as honest, it reads as the account of someone who genuinely wanted things to work out differently and is now processing the reality that they didn't. The Indiana Fever have not publicly responded to her claims as of this reporting that silence speaks. In the age of immediate communication, organizational silence in the face of a player's public account almost always gets interpreted as implicit confirmation. Every hour that passes without a clear, substantive response allows Cunningham's version of events to solidify as the accepted narrative. What happens next is genuinely unclear. Whether Cunningham remains with the franchise in some capacity, whether she has fully moved on, whether the front office reconsiders any aspect of their approach, all of that remains to be seen. But what is not unclear is the damage this situation has done in the short term. A player who kept this franchise in the conversation during its hardest stretch of the season felt so undervalued that she had to go build a second income stream. She had to go find another job, and then she told everyone about it on her own show. That is not a small story. That is not a footnote. That is the kind of story that defines how an organization gets remembered during a transformational era for their sport. The Indiana Fever thought they already had enough problems. Sophie Cunningham just made it very clear that they have considerably more. And until that front office addresses what she surfaced with the kind of transparency and accountability that this moment demands, those problems are not going anywhere. They are only going to grow louder.